Have you ever felt lost or lacked information about the action on track while watching Formula One? It doesn't matter if you've been following the championship for years or if you've just joined, understanding everything that happens on track can be a big challenge sometimes. The broadcasts show us the essentials, the basics, but leave out a lot of key information that could completely change the way we experience the races. But Testa, what if I told you that you can watch Formula One like a true professional? In this video, I will show you how to access all those hidden details that the commentators don't always mention in the broadcast, so that you can enjoy each session with a much more complete view. And best of all, at the end of this video, I will reveal a secret tool that I use myself to take my Formula One experience to the next level. Don't miss it. Before starting, if you want to support the channel, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. It's free and helps us a lot to keep growing and creating content. Remember that Teos Estivos that our podcast is also available, in which we are interviewing many guests from different areas of the motorsport world, and you're sure to love it if you're fans of the motorsport world. Formula One has always been a very complex sport, one of the most complex in the motorsport world. And it's true that although the broadcast of the races has improved with graphics that bring us a little closer to what is happening on the track, it's true that the FOM has introduced a lot of telemetry data of distances between drivers and has greatly improved the graphics so that the viewing of races and Formula One sessions is a bit more approachable for people who might not be as immersed in the world of data acquisition or, well, a more engineering focused view of what Formula One is. But even so, a lot of information is missing, and today I'm going to reveal how you can see all this information from your home with only your laptop and a subscription that is very cheap, €3 a month, if I'm not mistaken, to Formula One TV. Okay? With this, which you'll see is worth it, you'll be able to experience the races in a way completely professional, on par with any commentator or professional following the championship. To view all these details, you need to download the Formula One Multiviewer app. I will leave the link below so you can access it quickly. And it has a very simple interface that I'm going to show you briefly. For example, let's look at the session of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix Race 2024, which you have here on the screen. And then as you you have an initial screen where you can access the race timing. You can see some data such as live speed, the drivers, the classification, okay? You have here some data that are indeed very interesting, but it is not even 1% of what you can find. First, you will be able to see the track map live. You will see the position of each of the drivers competing in the race. This is very useful because oftentimes the broadcast focuses on certain battles and we don't know what's happening with some drivers, or we might see a yellow flag or a red flag and not know which drivers are involved. This way we can have direct access to what's happening. In this case, we are seeing on this map how the start of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix took place, and we see how, for example, Piastri was left at the first corner with that incident. That what else can we find in this application? Well, we have a viewer for the track limit that are being counted. Although in this case, we still don't have any track limits, but in this case, all the track limits that are seen during the race would appear in this window that you can open and close as you like. We also have a window where you can see what investigations are currently in course. In this case, we can see that there are already 3 investigations noted, and you can even see what they are about, whom they affect, and on which turns or laps these events being investigated have occurred. It's very useful because, well, you receive the message directly and can have it on screen. We also have all the team's radios. This is really interesting, honestly, if you can have a speaker connected, because you can listen live to all the drivers' radios that unfold during the race. And this is something very interesting. Furthermore, as you can see here, a way is being developed with artificial intelligence to transcribe these radios that occur during the race, so you can read them without even having to listen, right? On the speaker or in your headphones. We also have super interesting way to visualize the position changes. This is very practical and also very interesting, especially when the race ends and we want to see, well, as in, puedes así, how each of the drivers has evolved. We can easily follow the progression of positions for each of them, who has gained the most positions or lost the most, or at what moment, right? This is something that, well, it's very interesting for people who are following the race. Another part that to me doesn't seem as important, let's say, of this application, which are the championship predictions. Well, here they give you kind of well, they show you either what the possibilities are, or in sí what the real standings are at each moment of the race. That is, in this lap with this result, what would the outcome of the championship be? Well, it calculates it automatically, okay? It's something that's really not that useful, but it can help you when the race itself is happening to see uh, what championship position those results leave at that moment in the race. On the other hand, we have something that is very useful as well, not only in the race but also in the qualifying sessions, which is the leaderboard by sectors. This shows the fastest time set in each sector of the circuit and who the drivers are that have set the best time. Okay. In this way, we can see which teams adapt better to certain areas of the track, and it is very easy for us to be able to follow or predict which drivers will be able to get closer or overtake the drivers in front, depending on which sector suits their car. This is something that can help us, and moreover, not only in the race but also in qualifying, as it can give us an idea of which drivers or which teams are going to perform better in each part of the track. This is something that is always very interesting to be able to follow the session. Just like this, we also have a window where we can see each sector or each speed trap, what the maximum speed each of the drivers is reaching. Also very useful to, well, know which teams are registering the best the top speed records on the straight, so that if they are pursuing, or if a driver is being pursued, then you know how easily they will be able to overtake or defend against rival. So it's very, very useful to have all this data in front of us. We also have in TASEM, we also have the lap times, right? This image shows you what have been the fastest lap records of each of the race itself. It has been very useful in past seasons, especially for seeing who had the point for the fastest lap and so on. Starting from next year in 2020, well, starting this season in 2025, you know that there will no longer be a point awarded for the fastest lap. Therefore, well, it will be important because we can see the trend of the drivers in the last laps of the race to know if they are improving sectors, if they are improving lap times, if a pit stop is approaching, or if there is a decline in the tires, for example. It will be information that will help us a lot to understand these details of what is happening in the race. Lastly, we also have one last window where we can see the distance or the gap between drivers. Okay, this it's information that is quite detailed, and to understand it well, we have to study it a bit, because, well, it's very difficult to see. But as you see in this very application, you can follow or mark with the cursor each of the moments, and you can see the data displayed on the screen at that precise moment. Okay, it's very visual. You can see Balam, for example, the drivers entering the pits, those who have an incident. It shows well how they are falling behind at that moment. And that's not all, because you also have the possibility to access the onboard camera of each driver in the car, with all the data, with all the telemetry from that moment of the restaros. You can see everything that is happening from the pilot's camera, and that way you can leave the windows open, the cameras of your favorite pilots or those you are most interested in following during the race, or if something happens, know what is going on with those pilots. We can have it a bit in parallel with the track map, and it gives us a much more complete view of what is happening, because many times the broadcast or the production of the phone does not give us the view, even with the graphics, with the windows that they sometimes open for us in the right side of the screen, with the cameras on some battles that are happening and that are being broadcast to us in that moment. Is even though we have that information, many times we miss seeing what is happening, right? And sometimes we even hear the commentators talk about, oh well, the battle's happening behind what the camera is showing us, and it's because they have access to this kind of windows where they can see the onboard of the pilots in question that interest them. Well, this is a bit of a summary of how the Formula One Multiviewer application or software works, which, as I have already told you, I'll leave the link down here so you can download it. It's super simple. Also, as you will see if you download it, it does not work solely for Formula One, because you also have the possibility to follow this format for IndyCar, the World Endurance Championship, and other races like Formula 2, Formula 3, where you also have quite a lot of content to follow the races with this device that, as I say, is super useful, especially if you like Formula One and you like to follow in detail and count the distances, the times, the speeds, and everything, the strategy, having everything there in front. Well, this is super useful, so you can follow Formula One like a true professional. And I haven't forgotten, I promised you before that I was going to give you my secret tool, or the one I use to further expand and take my way of watching Formula One to the next level. And it is something fundamental in Formula One and in races in general. Especially lately, it's the telemetry. And much is said about how the telemetry of some drivers is compared to others, about how to read the data recorded in the driver's telemetry. We even see in the FOM that there are some graphics that already show us direct telemetry comparisons of different drivers, at what point they brake, at what point they accelerate, how much steering they give, how much throttle they give when exiting the corner, and at what moment. Very useful things if you're a true fan of Formula One and are interested in the engineering part behind what happens on the track. Well, you have a super useful tool to have all this information that is Formula One time. I'm also going to leave the link down here, and it is a completely free website where you can access the telemetry of all the drivers, of each of the laps, of all the circuits, of all the sessions held over a weekend. You can even compare to know in the micro sectors of the circuit which drivers have been faster than others. You have all the information there in detail, so that you can have, even once the race, a lot more data to analyze what has happened, and in the controversies, the penalties by the FIA, and everything that is happening in the championship, which you all know who have followed these last seasons. Quote, you have a lot of information to have a much more developed and much more worked on, more than what you can just by watching the broadcast on television. And well, that's all for today. If you like this video, remember to give it a like. And if you want to know how telemetry works and how to read it correctly, let me know in the comments, and soon I'll upload a video explaining in detail how to read it, what the data shown are, and how to interpret them correctly.